I sold everything, left the city, and moved to the north. My plan is to build a big-ass log home all by myself. And the kicker is, I have no experience whatsoever. This will be exciting. Huah! I guess I always had a dream to live like a real cowboy in Alaska. To live in the wild, surrounded by mountains, woods and lakes. I like that lifestyle of being a lone wolf with beard axe and a rocking chair. The only thing missing is a log home. I'm a guy around 40 years old who lives alone with my 3 dogs. I'm a former musician and for a living I produce TV commercials. So I left the city and moved to the north of Sweden. Here I found my dream spot with 4 acres of land just along the lake. My babies are Samantha, Tyran and their daughter Daisy. 3 very dangerous pit bulls who will lick you to death if you pet them. The path to the north hasn't been a straight arrow. I was born in the middle of Sweden and my little brother and I was grown up in the south. I think I was a wild little rascal, dreaming of being a rock star. And I played in a lot of bands and then I moved to LA to become a guitar hero. I made some albums but they didn't sell, so I changed direction and started my own production company. And after 40 years in the city with car jam, stress and all that bullshit, it was time for a new chapter in my life. And to move to the north is a big adventure. Everything is twice as hard. The closest store is about 20 clicks away, and order a home-delivered pizza. Just forget it. And in the wintertime, when it gets really cold and the water in your house freezes, then you start to wonder, what the hell am I doing here? But when the spring arrives, then the north is absolutely amazing. The feeling you get when the snow melts away is a totally hallelujah moment. And when summer arrived, I felt like a little child again, with playful days and exciting adventures. The move to the north made me happy again, and I felt like I finally found my place. I had a few logs and I wanted to see how hard it would be to take off the bark. Fortunately, I had some help from my dogs. I'm a lumberjack and that's okay. I work all day and I work that day. Yeah, debarking with old bark spuds is hard labor, believe you me. But I had read online that you also could remove the bark with a high-pressure washer. And sure, I tried that too, but the bark didn't move, it just got cleaner. I also tried a draw knife to smooth out the surface, but that was even harder work. For the future, I need to find a better solution and an easier way to debark my logs.
Ett dugg unglag, ja. Kommer farbror Ingvar? Ja, ja. Vad fan? Har du tvätt? Vad fan?
Ja, Frank.
Fina de är.
Ja. Men fan vad jobbigt det var.
Tänk förut. När Finland kom hit i början på 50-talet och högg timmer. Då hade de med sig sånt.
This is my closest neighbor, Ingvar. He's an old retired lumberman and he's been living here his whole life. He comes over now and then and I visit him for coffee breaks. Ingvar is old school. He tells stories about how it was back then when they cut down timber only using axes and horses, how they lived in a small cabin with a wood stove and outdoor toilet. And when it was 30 degrees below, then you did your business in record time, he says. And this is another thing I discovered living in a small village. In the city, I never talk with my neighbors. But out here, you take the time to socialize, chat for a while, or lend some tools. It's a totally different lifestyle, and I dig it a lot. I think a lot of people dream to build and design their own house. For me, there's nothing cooler than a handcrafted log home. And I'm not talking about a small cabin in the woods. I want the whole package with grand porches, big posts, real rustic style where you can see the natural character of the wood with knots, twigs and veins. It feels so genuine and it's also very ecological. A timber home has that unique ability to keep it warm when it's cold outside and cool it down when it's warm. You don't need extra isolation or mechanical ventilation. The wood breathes by itself and you get a better and cleaner air inside a timber home. Besides that, log homes are drop dead gorgeous, magnificent and grand. For me, it's the ultimate home. Nothing beats it. I'm not exaggerating if I say that I made over 100 log homes in my computer. I tried to move rooms around, change sizes and test all possible ways to figure out how I want it. The hard part in a log home is the corner notch and make them fit together. It requires years of experience and skill to get it right. So I looked around all over the internet and studied everything about timber house. And one day I stumbled over a site called Deadwood Log Homes. They showed with pictures how they did it. Everything from debarking to how they made their corners. I read every word and found out that it was so easy that I could do it by myself. So I mailed Rick, the owner of the company, and asked if he could help me with some questions. And he said yes, so I started to mail bombing him. I asked him all possible questions on every detail in the building process. He answered patiently and gave me a lot of useful and good advices. Rick became my mentor, and it was him and his site that made me realize, dude, go nuts, make this great adventure and build your own log home.
Eftersom jag inte har byggt en timmerkåk eller snickrat överhuvudtaget i mitt liv så är jag tvungen att testa en del grejer. Jag har hittat ett sätt. Det här håller jag på att testa lite grann. Så att det här är liksom en liten ministuga som jag håller på med.
This technique is called butt and pass, and it's one of the easiest way to build a log home. You cut the logs so you get two flat surfaces, and when you stack them, the sides will look like regular round logs. And in the corners you cut a V female, and on the other log a V male, so they will make a perfect match. As I said, it's very simple, and with this method I can do it all by myself. I needed some logs to be able to build my home, and I found out that one of my neighbors were just on his way to cut down some timber. I needed 300 logs around 5 meters long and 30 centimeters wide.
När jag ser allt det här så kan jag inte låta bli ödmjuk alltså. Jag blir lite så här: wow, vilket projekt. Fan vad häftigt. Om det så tar 1 år, 2 år, gör det. Ha kul. Jag är bara så tagen att de här stockarna ska jag bo i om allting slår väl ut. Det är väl det som gör mig lite ödmjuk alltså.
A few weeks later, it was time to get the timber to the sawmill. My neighbor Lars drives a logging truck, so we went deep into the woods to pick him up.
Sitting on a back porch, drinking moonshine, chewing long cut, getting high on the elements. Looking for the big score, wanna get it done, gotta wrap it up, gotta hide all the evidence. Moonshine, gasoline. Moonshine, what you need.
Räknar du, har du koll på hur många det var där?
Jag räknar 139 startade
139?
förra last.
140, så du är 140 till.
This is Connie, and he's a real jack of all trades. He can turn an old tractor into a brand new Ferrari. He's the guy you call when thing breaks down and you need some help. He has his own sawmill, and he will cut all my timber. Of my 300 logs, will 200 be for the walls, and the rest will be sawed into joist planks and panels.
Jag har inte sett något sånt timmer på, jag vet inte hur många år.
Alltså,
Inte.
en del är ju fan 50-60 centimeter i diameter, vet du.
Ja.
Det måste ju vara 200-300 år gamla träd alltså.
Ja, det är de. Ja, minst 150.
Fan, jag fick ont i magen, jag ser det.
Va?
Jag fick ont i magen.
Oh, ja.
Det är så mycket jobb.
Ja, nog fan har du jobb nu. Du har nog jobb i 1 år minst. Det är bara början där.
Barka. Fixa.
So I got my first logs, and Rick, my mentor, had warned me that the hardest part to build a timber home is to debark all the logs. But I didn't worry too much about it, and maybe that was a good thing. Right now I was just gung-ho to get started.
En stock klar. Och en stock tog mig en timme ungefär. Med att hyvla ner, ta bort barken. Jag tycker det är rätt coolt när det är så här lite hackigt. Ser handgjort ut. Fast det är motorsågsgjort. En timma, en stock. 300 stockar, 300 timmar. Vad pallar jag? 5 stockar om dagen då. Första dag på 3-4 månader. Nu ska jag stå och göra så här i 4 månader.
I needed a bunch of tools to get the job done. First and foremost was a chainsaw equipped with a debarker called Log Wizard. I had tried with old bark spuds, but it was too much work, and with this plan attachment to the chainsaw made the job much faster. I also needed a template so I could mark how big the shelf would be. My logs were 25 centimeters high and the shelf was 15 wide. And you put it in the end of the log and center it, and then you make your marks. After that I use a marking cord with a chalk line so you can see the lines on the shelf. And now the log is ready to debark.
De här stockarna, de är 5 meter långa. Och de väger alltså över 500 kilo. Du lyfter dem inte för hand liksom.
So I just got started with my first logs, but I needed to buy some other gear for upcoming tasks. A heavy-duty chainsaw, a timber axe to get the surface smooth, and some protecting clothes in case of an accident. But the most important thing was actually this machine. Yes, I bought an old tractor from my neighbor. It's a David Brown, a 64 model, just 2 years older than me. It cost me a few $1,000 and a bottle of whiskey. It got a loader, a snow bucket, and it starts with no hassle. And frankly, this tractor was essential. Without it, I couldn't move around my 500 kilo logs.
Visst var det kul? Ja, visst var det kul med traktor? Det är skitkul. God morgon. Ännu en härlig dag. Att såga, bila, klyva, fixa.
I wasn't used to hard labor. After a few hours, my body screamed for a break. My back was aching because you stand in a weird position, half bent over the logs. I managed to do around 2 to 3 logs a day, and then I was totally exhausted. And to be honest, I wasn't in a good shape. For 30 years I've been sitting in front of a computer or play guitar. so my stamina was really bad. Figure it will be better with time though. And when I took my breaks, my mind was spinning with all of the details of building. How will I do the foundation? How many windows do I need? What kind of roof should I have? So many questions. But at this point, I didn't worry too much. Right now, my focus was on fixing the logs, and I only had a few hundred to do. I needed some help to cut the high grass on the field. My neighbor Radar came down and fixed it for me. Here I will stack the logs to dry. And this is another thing compared to the city. In the city you would never ask your neighbor to cut down your lawn. But in a small village we help each other out, both with small and big things. The mentality is completely different and much more friendly.
Men det var bra det där nu då.
Det blev skitbra alltså. Nu har jag ju plats att lägga stockar, ska vi se.
Ja, du kan ju lägga både neråt så här, så kan du lägga på tvären och tillbaka upp igen.
Kolla här vet du. Jävla mördarvapen.
Hur kan man, om det blir någon dramatisk sån här, kan man skicka hit dem till dig nu så jävla.
Radar, he's a funny old fart. He always jokes around, and like everyone up here in the north, their favorite things is hunting and fishing. When hunting season starts, they all disappear in the woods, and you can't get hold of no one for weeks. Also with fishing, up here we have thousands of lakes and rivers with first-class fishes such as trout and salmon. But in our lake we only have bass and pike, though we have a lot of them. So one day Radar called me over and said, "You won't believe your eyes." And damn, that was a lot of fish. One bass was almost 2 kilos, and that's a big sucker. On my property, there's an old house built in the 40s, a crappy garage and a very old barn. When I bought the place, I only asked if the water and electricity was working. I didn't care how it looked. Waterfront property was all that matters. The land has over 4 acres, so I got a lot of space to build on. I've staked out the new building site and I've centered it in the middle of my property facing the lake.
Här kommer det vara tv-soffa, tv dit. Så då funderar jag på i mitten här av kåken ha en eldstad.
The log home will be 16 by 12 meters, including porches. I will have a large living room with a fireplace, bedroom, bathroom, and a kitchen. One porch is facing south and the other to the north, where the entrance will be.
En sån här utsikt är fan inte fy skam alltså. Det är lite så här, när jag letar mark så var ju insjön nummer 1. Sjötomt. Och det gör jävligt mycket alltså. Även om man inte fiskar varje dag eller badar varje dag. Så är det jävligt rogivande att ha en sjö. Hundarna badar. Man ser väl lite så här ett med naturen. Ja.
I had a few minor pickles with some of my logs. They were simply too fat and wide. All my logs were 25 centimeters high and normally around 30 centimeters wide, but some were up to 50 centimeters. And here I had a problem, because all my shelves would be 15 centimeters. So on the big logs I had to cut away all the overburden, and on the really fat logs I had to trim the whole side, and that was a hell of a job. Somebody had told me, or if I read it online, that it was pretty smart to make a model of your home, to learn and figure out all the work moments of the project. So I bought a bunch of rods and sat down and fiddled with it for a week. And another thing when building a house is to decide how big it should be. My first attempt was over 400 square meter with an indoor pool, game room and all that bling bling. I realized that that would be too expensive, so I had to cut down to fit my wallet. And because I had no training or experience of the building process, so I didn't have a clue on how much work was in front of me.
Jag har fortfarande svårt att förstå hur fan jag ska lyckas alltså. Det är en jävla massa pinnar som ska upp. Det är ett jävla projekt alltså. Jag vet inte om jag kommer slutföra det heller. Men jag ska försöka. Jag ska ge ett tappert försök alltså. Se om jag pallar att göra allting själv.